Illinois faces some big challenges. Today, we're about to hear a truly honest analysis of the problems we face. Equally as important, you'll also hear an in-depth discussion of some practical solutions. This is your radio source for stories, the insight, and the answers you won't hear anywhere else. Not in the media and not coming from Springfield. You're listening to Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute. Now, here's your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft, thank you for joining us on another edition of Illinois Rising. You normally catch me Monday through Friday on Chicago's Morning Answer with Amy Jacobson, 5 to 9 a.m. Joining me this week as a co-host of Illinois Rising is Cole Lauterbach. He's a reporter for the Illinois News Network. Hey, and Cole, thanks. And we're pleased to have in studio with us former State Senator Steve Rauschenberger, Republican from Elgin, and now the president of the TMA, which is the Technology and Manufacturing Association. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I want to bring you right in, get right to it, because this past week was a big one, a curious one, but I wonder if you were surprised at all by the outcome. No state budget, no continuing a probe for primary and secondary education, just kind of a whole lot of kabuki theater without anything to show for it.
Yeah, until there's a pain point for Mike Madigan and John Cullerton where it costs them something for not acting, we're going to continue to see this kind of behavior. They're just playing their cards out. They don't think their districts are at risk in the election. They don't think the voters are paying attention. And maybe they're right. Maybe we have to shut down schools to get people seriously focused.
Well, and to that point, when they both said no budget until after the election, we're not even going to make an effort over the next 5 months is essentially what they're saying, or even the next kind of 60 days before you would have the schools ready to open again. Is that an indication that they feel they're bulletproof?
I think so. And an indication they don't take any kind of, no weight is applied to their constitutional oath. You know, those two guys have presided over at least 7 years of unbalanced budgets that are in violation of the Illinois Constitution, and perhaps because of their close relationship with the Attorney General, they feel there's nobody has authority over Speaker Madigan and Senate President Cullerton.
And you mentioned the Attorney General, and there's so many other ways that could go too. Is the fact that schools may not, open, that there could be 100 different things happen between now and then, but it seems like because of that lack of fear of that, is there going to be legal ramifications to this where you have schools, coming after them and saying, we need this, we're entitled to this money, there needs to be some sort of legal action here?
I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not sure I can opine on that.
And you're proud of that.
Yes, and I'm proud of that. I'm an accountant by education, but it just seems to me that somebody should have standing after 7 years of no constitutionally balanced budget, complete chaos in Springfield, and the House and the Senate refusing to do their basic duty. I don't. You would normally, in a state where you had an independent attorney general, the attorney general would have acted a long time ago about a structurally unbalanced budget and contravened the whole process. Had it happened 5 years ago, we wouldn't be at the extreme level we're at today, but it appears as if we have lawlessness operating in Springfield. They're not bound by the Constitution. They're not bound by the statutes. They'll do as they please. They'll check in and check out. I don't know how long it takes Illinoisans to want to reject this whole thing.
Well, I mean, and to your point, could we have a watershed moment if you had at least some schools not open? Because here's the thing, there's a little demagoguery in this space, right? Most schools, particularly in the suburbs, derive most of their funding from local property taxes, like 80 to 90%.
And reserves at school districts are very high. The idea that schools, can't serve lunches is just simply not true. But, I mean, it's this kind of crisis thing where it involves a broader part of the population than simply the disabled or the mentally ill that's going to bring about the crisis. Perhaps the one mistake Bruce Rauner made last year was signing the education budget.
Not bringing the crisis to bear.
Yes.
Not essentially fomenting the crisis. Say, look, I'm not going to do a slow death.
Right.
We're gonna have this. We're gonna hash this all out right now. I said structural reform. We're gonna do structural reform, or everything shuts down to force everybody to the table.
Yeah, but it seems like a game of chicken, though. I mean,
well, what is it now?
As I'm saying, it feels like a game of both between Madigan and Rauner saying, well, you're going to blink first in this type of situation because this is going to hurt you much more than it's going to hurt me. Everyone's going to think that this is your fault. And I mean, really, is Madigan in this situation? Is he right? Are people going to come out and blame Rauner because Madigan is not letting anything pass?
At this point, as a citizen, I don't care anymore. I don't.
Yeah.
A pox on both their houses.
Yeah.
I mean, if they all burst into simultaneous flames, it doesn't make any difference to me. What's going on is wrong. It's wrong for the kids. It's wrong for the taxpayers. It's wrong for the families. It's wrong for the job creators, the businesses that are trying to operate in the state. I mean, this is not some kind of little political battle that's taking place in New Orleans or in Baton Rouge or in Atlanta, Georgia, about the Republicans and the Democrats. We are Puerto Rico on the mainland. I mean, our bond rating is in the toilet. The CPS is borrowing money at credit card rates. I mean, this is a state that is completely dysfunctional. So somebody has got to involve the whole population. This isn't some kind of problem in Champaign, Illinois, or just in Bloomington because of a university. This is a structural problem that we have to deal with. And I really don't care if all of their political futures. I mean, how petty can they all be for a $60,000 a year job that I'll do anything wrong to support bad public policy?
And part of this, and maybe Governor Rauner has fallen into this trap a bit, the trap that Madigan sets, which is to make this a mano-a-mano thing, make this about two politicians fighting, the governor and the Speaker of the House, rather than where Rauner was as a candidate, which is I'm on the side of you, the taxpayer, against the political class writ large in Springfield and Chicago.
Yeah, and I think the governor needs to kick every one of his cabinet members out, and they need to be talking in the communities to Kiwanis clubs and to Lions clubs and Rotaries and Chambers of Commerce, saying this fight is for all the chips. I mean, either we can't keep passing Rahm Emanuel pension fixes where we cut down on our obligations and push them out 40 years and claim it's reform. We can't just keep stacking unpaid bills on top of each other and waiting for federal court decrees to tell us how to spend our budget. I mean, that's not a sovereign state behavior. That's not a healthy state behavior. And as jobs exit the state and U-Hauls, travel south, we're going to pay the price that Detroit paid. And we don't need to be Flint, Michigan, and Illinois, but we will be if we don't get better leadership.
Just on the schools thing, because that's a provocative position you're at least intimating should be under consideration if you're not advocating it straight away. Forrest Claypool, the latest toady to be put in charge of the Chicago public school system, said that Chicago schools aren't going to open this fall without state funding, and that's one of the few school districts in the state that derives most of its funding from the state, so it's different than most of these suburban school districts. Should the governor say, you made this bed and I'm not going to do anything until we get everybody around the table to talk about these structural reforms? Or should he do what he's doing now, which is kind of going out on tour with the stopgap budget Band-Aid?
Well, I hope they don't pass a stopgap budget. I mean, we're way past the time where we need to confront reality in the state of Illinois. But at the same time, I would tell the governor he needs to get out with the Secretary of Education and everybody in his cabinet. They need to be talking all over the state about, this is Armageddon. We got to make a decision in the state of Illinois. We're going to make some changes. I mean, do you want to be on the side of children and families in schools, or do you want to be on the side of the teachers' unions? Do you want to be on the side of ASME so that they get their I don't forget how big the raise is that they're trying to cut the governor out of the negotiations on, or is this about the taxpayers? I mean, are we going to start making Illinois healthy in the best set of circumstances with a tax increase and a really austere budget? And we're 5 to 7 years away from financial health in the state of Illinois at this point. You push this out another 12 or 15 months. I mean, default is I think a realistic question in the state of Illinois.
Well, and this stopgap budget, like you mentioned, and Rauner said that he's willing to look at a stopgap budget without reform. And he ran on the fact that, look, if I am in, I am going to reform the fundamental way that the state does business, because this is why we're in the state we're in, is this status quo. Is that why you're saying we should not advocate for a stopgap budget? Because it's just more of the same.
Right. It just pushes this decision off. At some point, we're going to have to make hard decisions in the state of Illinois. They stopped making them when Rod Blagojevich showed up in office, and it continued under Pat Quinn. And now, at least we're fighting about it. I have very little sympathy for weak-kneed or sad legislators sitting down in Springfield that think somehow somebody needs to get to a table and fix all this so they can go home for the summer. I mean, this is the wages of sin you pay for 7 years of failing to do your constitutional duty.
But on a little bit of a bright note, since we're so dour about what's happened and happening, We did, according to the Mercatus Center, George Mason University, their ranking this week of the states in terms of their fiscal condition. We shot past New Jersey to 47th. Look out, Kentucky. We're coming for you. We're talking to former state senator Steve Rauschenberger, now the president of the Technology and Manufacturing Association. We're going to pick it up with Rauschenberger's experience in the General Assembly for his time there and how that differs from what you see before you in real time. And we'll be right back to pick that up.